Okay, this right here is going to be a very specific style of tier list. Number one, I want to make sure you guys realize this first tier list we're doing is more or less for the mid to late game accounts. You're going to be having pretty much a full team of Transcendence heroes, but what we are not going to include in this is any type of core for any hero, because of course cores are spenders only. You cannot get them as free to play. You gotta spend just about every single time to get them. You can probably get them as like a low spender pretty easily, but I don't want to include that in this actual list. This is going to be 100% a mid to late game Transcendence hero tier list without cores. Now in a couple days we'll have like a full endgame tier list coming out, but what we're doing here is we're ranking every single Transcendence hero in every single game mode against each other. So of course there's 14 heroes in every single, or there's 14 Transcendence heroes in the Transcendence hero faction. So number one is going to be the best of the best. So it's going to be kind of opposite of the normal style tier list. Number 14, bottom of the barrel. They're going to be way down there. And yeah, we're going to go over why each hero is so good in certain different game modes. From our experiences, from chat's experiences, we've talked with people in a bunch of different guilds too to try to accumulate this information. This one is a little difficult because, again, you're not having full powered heroes. We're pretty much assuming you have at least a couple branches of the origin tree done. You're level 100 in the origin tree as well. You probably have a pretty mid-tier to higher level main household for one Transcendence hero. And that's about it. You pretty much have all the pay-to-win artifacts at your disposal, kind of, because, I mean, honestly, even free-to-play can have a wide variety of pay-to-win artifacts. So let's jump into it. We're going to talk about each one a little bit in a fast mode. I'm not uploading an image file because I think image file tier lists are very bad. Like, honestly, there's way too much you don't understand just by doing this. So we're going to do it this way. Hopefully you guys enjoy. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Let's jump right into it. So thanks to our handy dandy here we have our very nice spreadsheet here, thanks to Delgico. We're going to be doing it live, so you're going to see some borders and stuff. That's not going to make it look as clean as some of our older stuff. You'll be able to see I can click on all the cells, but again, this is going to be a hero Transcendence hero tier list without cores, so we're not counting cores here, and we're going to be organizing each one of these columns based on rank 1 to rank 14. Again, number 1 is the best, 14 is the worst. So first up, we're going to be talking about the two different groupings of Purgatory and Aspen Dungeon we talked about, 1 to 100 and then 100 to 200. Let's be honest, Sword Flash Shia, she was the first one that did it. Didn't need Giant Killer. She just has an amazing, crazy toolkit. You run some mark removal on her to beat the Amun-Ra waves. She does some good business. And also, Fairy Queen Vesta is very good in the early stages. She has awesome healing. She does, however, need someone else to help her with those Amun-Ra stages. Amun-Ra is one of the big keys here, which is why Doom Terminator Vulcan comes in at number 3, because, well, he's not that affected by Amun-Ra. Like, the healing curse does hurt him, but it's not enough to completely nuke him like it is a lot of heroes. And as you guys know, a lot of these heroes are going to be ones you're used to seeing. Lord of Fear Aspen, his crowd control, his fear effect is amazing. Star Swordsman Machman, actually pretty good with a splendid AMB. Even though he's not doing that giant descending form, or rather descending form. Yeah, the big active, he still does the counterattack damage, and his basic tag does do quite a bit of damage too. So he's definitely up there. Maybe not the best, but he's still a very solid hero. Sun Devour Eos, she farms energy very easily. She's someone that's really good. And then you kind of get down to like those mid tiers where it's like you can make them work, not really great. Sadly, I don't have Phantom Defier Elena's icon, her avatar here just yet from the most recent data files. So we'll get that and update it in the future. But pretty much just all the support heroes not great. And then Lord of Death Azrael, I mean, he basically tries to kill himself. That's the whole point of him. That's not good in a 1v1 mode. Now, when we do jump over to this here and we go to the second column, there are a lot of similarities. However, some heroes drop down, other ones jump up. Lord of Fear Aspen, he's probably the second easiest hero to completely solo all the way up to Purgatory 200. Rui Scepter on him is just absolutely insane if you have a strong enough home on him and everything. Very good. Just note, from getting from 150 to 200, It's rough without a giant killer copy. I know like Sword Flash, she is one of the few that have done it without having that. So that's kind of one reason why she stays at number 1, because she was, I mean, people have cleared this back in like October, November of last year. And they did it with the Sword Flash E. It was very good. Vulcan, again, very good. Once you get some decent investment in him, you need the first and the last tree branches filled out. The in-between one's not as important. Star Swordsman Knockman actually bumps up this list here because his block chance is so high. He does have some really strong counterattack damage, and Vesa drops down to number 5. After that, though, everybody's pretty much the same. They're more like utility heroes. They don't really hard carry anything, which is why we didn't change up that much. If you guys want to check out the bottom, yeah, you're going to see Lord of Death Azrael down there a lot. Next up is Tower of Dreams. I think we want to do A to Z, right? Yep, there we go. So Tower of Dreams, this is essentially Burst Central. Burst and CC are king in the higher levels of Tower of Dreams. Star Swordsman Mockman, really, really good damage here. Jara, very good damage and very good crowd control. The best part about Starwing Jara is certain things she really thrives in where CC is king. In Tower of Dreams, you're not instantly dying on round 1 like in Void Campaign, so Starwing Jara has a much better chance to stay alive, to maybe even outspeed the enemy and get crowd control to stick. Doom Terminator Vulcan, again, I mean, you're going to see Star Swordsman Mockman and Vulcan pretty much fighting for those top few spots every single time. They're such a close combination. Star Swordsman Mockman a little bit better in some game modes with less investment, whereas Doom Terminator Vulcan becomes better with the more investment you have in him, and he's a little bit more versatile. Lord of Fear Aspen, that fear effect, that CC is awesome. In the earlier stages of Tower of Dreams, Sword Flash Shia is like untouchable. Her dodge, her one-shot ability is amazing. Vesa with that, I mean, the healing, the shielding, everything is absolutely amazing. And then, of course, if one of your heroes die, you silence the enemy team. It's a cool combo. We do have Scarlet Queen Halora. Mainly, you're going to see Scarlet Queen Halora in the mid to high tiers in a lot of these, and that's mainly for her 20% all damage dealt just by having Royal Guard on your heroes. It's just pure raw damage just by putting her in your lineup on round 1. Even if she dies immediately, doesn't matter. She still affects your team. After that, Phantom Defier Elena. We had a lot of struggle ranking her in this list, which is why she might be kind of low. She might be brought up occasionally, but again, we haven't had too much experience with her just yet, so we wanted to be conservative, keep her on the lower end of the tier list, didn't want to hype her up just yet unless we figure out she's really good. And again, Mystic Fairy Freya. She's that solid supporter, middle of the pack pretty much anywhere you go. A lot of these support heroes in the middle, you can kind of put anywhere you want, so it's kind of a cool idea, and I like it. After that, Asmonel kind of starts lacking damage. Eos is kind of there just for on death effect, and the rest of them, yeah. One thing you'll notice on this tier list compared to the next one we're going to do, Star Alchemist Holmes Young, pretty much at the bottom. Why? Because his power comes from his core. And if we're not having a core on an early game, like a free-to-play account or low spender account, you're not going to want this hero. So that's that. We're going to move on to Seal Land 30s next. So number 1, Doom Terminator Vulcan. We've had like the least amount of investment in a hero. B- copies, things like that. We've had other people clear it with Doom Terminator Vulcan. Very, very easy in comparison to other ones. Literally just using like Michelle's and stuff like that for extra freeze attacks. Really good. Lord of Fear Aspen was one of the first ones to actually get Dark Sealand done, and that was before Star Swordsman Mockman even existed. Lord of Fear Aspen with a bunch of carries can absolutely decimate Sealand 30 if you have heavy investment in him. Very, very good. And then, of course, now we have the newer Dark Hero, Star Swordsman Mockman. Again, he can obliterate the enemy team, but you usually need Lord of Fear Aspen with Star Swordsman Mockman, which is why they're kind of like that 2-3 combo. After that, Asmodel the Dauntless. He's done it with a ton of Michelle copies. He's very, very strong. Maybe not as strong as Doom Terminator Vulcan, but the fact that he synergizes so well with Michelle's, just like Doom Terminator Vulcan, keeps them up high on the list. Now, once we start from 5 down, Sword Flash Shia, she does require a kind of heavy investment, not necessarily in her, but in a full team around her with Sherlocks, Fionas, things like that, maybe even some Holmes Youngs, to get those doves off to let her survive long enough to ramp her damage up, get some big damage in, but she can get a Sealand 30 done without a giant killer. Vesa is another one. You kind of want like Mystic Fairy Freya alongside with her. Just so you know, I mean, like, it just kind of is what it is. Scarlet Queen Halora might be one of the easiest ones to get the Sealand 25, but after that, it does become a little bit more difficult, which is why we put her down at 7. Jara, man, there's even whales that have not even done Shadow Sea Land because they just don't want to. So I've been told it can be done, but not many people want to take the time to actually do it. Mystic Fairy Freya, she's pretty much a support for your Fairy Queen Vesa, not a hero that does it by herself. Same thing with Eos and all the other support style heroes. Moving over, we have Realms Gate 121 plus. So this one is going to encompass all the game, I mean the PvP fights, the puppets, the boss puppet, all those things here. Starwing Jara, I mean, she just really comes through and changes the meta up. Let me actually shift this over just a little bit here. Oh man, I didn't lock the screen. So let me do this instead. I'm going to leave this over here. I'm going to shift this over just a little bit to about here now, and then we'll have to scroll over from there. So yeah, she's just the best one. Now when you do get against the one big boss, she does suffer, but even the like the quad puppets, all those things, she just thrives. Her CC is amazing. You can outspeed the enemies. It's really good. Doom Terminator Vulcan, very good at boss fights, very good at multi-combat, like multi-battles. It's just, he's so good. I love this hero. He's going to be one of the top ones ranked here for now. Vesa just gives that awesome support. She has great healing. She has the CC if one of your heroes dies. Really, really good. And then we're going to even put Sword Flash She on her because she does so much single target damage. She really picks up in the boss fights. She has that dodge capability built in, which makes her very strong. And then we're going to have Star Swordsman Mogwin. Kind of the same reason with Jara, like he bumps down just because the boss battle isn't that great. We probably could have ranked him a little higher, but this is kind of what the consensus we came with. Lord of Fear Aspen, of course, in here. And then again, you'll see pretty much a similar situation, except Phantom Defier Lana we bumped up because, well, she has that dodge capability. She's able to give your team control immunity very much like Lord of Fear Aspen can and things like that. So really good. And then, of course, the other typical supports. It's going to look familiar at the bottom of this list, so we're not going to talk about them too much. Next up is going to be getting to Vortex Dominator. So Jara is number one, the most important hero. Getting that CC lockdown is so important. These are the few game modes where we think she thrives, and she is just the best hero. A very similar situation with Lord of Fear Aspen. The combo of Jara and Aspen in Vortex Dominator is unbeatable. Like, it's just absolutely amazing. You can't beat it. It's so good. Beyond that, though, Doom Terminator Vulcan and Mockman coming in right behind them. Really good damage, AoE damage, backline damage, just really picking away the enemy team. Really, really strong. You will notice, though, out of everybody, the Sword Flash does drop here. She, of course, is the OG team of Scarlet Queen Halora and Sword Flash, but there's just so many more easy ways to do it now, where Sword Flash is a single target and then has to ramp up her AoE. Other heroes now do it just naturally, which is why we have that fall down. Next up, we have a group of campaign fights here. So we're going to shift this over a little bit here. I might have to shrink it down to get to some of the last columns just so we don't completely cut off who is ranked where, because we're losing the image files, but I don't want to lose everything here. I might have to lock this. You know what? Let me lock it. I'll be right back. Okay, easy fix. We locked the far left column, so most of it's going to be hidden behind me. But again, campaign number one, Jara is hands down the most important hero. She can literally just solo almost all the way through this with her CC with some high RNG. Of course, if you do come across some like carries and stuff, it can be a little tricky, but this is pretty much talking about you have a couple to like from 2 to 6 Transcendence heroes is what this is kind of for. Lord of Fear Aspen, again, that combo of those two is really, really good, and this is where Star Swordsman Mockman really starts to shine a little bit more compared to Dominator, in my opinion. Vulcan is good, but I feel like he really picks up in the later stages of campaign, and of course, Sword Flash, very, very good as well in the early difficulties. Vesa, solid support. Fairy Queen, Mystic Fairy Freya, good for dodge with Phantom Defier, all these things. But again, you'll see like a common trend, which is why we're not really talking about these. They're just not needed. Can they be useful? Absolutely. Are they the best though? Definitely not. Next up is Campaign 2XX. This is where Jara, still useful, but slowly starts falling off because of speed issues on a lot of accounts. Star Swordsman Machman really starts to shine in this middle zone here because you can still outspeed the enemies. Vulcan coming in very close behind. Lord of Fear Aspen becoming the new CC you want to run because, of course, his basic attack can just CC the whole back line, whereas Jara needs that active ability, has to have people faster than here, or has to get like a really fast round 2 active, which is why they're ranked a little lower. And then when we move over to the third difficulty is when Doom Terminator Vulcan really just kind of starts shining more because he has more survivability. Sometimes Star Swordsman Machman, like, he just doesn't even get to that difficulty. Like, he doesn't even get to his active, as you guys have seen on our account. I didn't put a column for Chapter 4 on this one, and that's mainly because, well, you kind of need Giant Killer in Chapter 4. You can get very far without it. There are a handful of people who've even cleared everything without Giant Killer. It's just a really big pain in the butt. But really, the top 3 stay the same. The value of Scarlet Queen Halora jumps up from 6 to 4 because you really need that all damage dealt. You're basically going second and you're using an active in round 1 on these heroes. But yeah, you can kind of see the order shifted a little bit. Jara drops a lot because she becomes very squishy. You rarely get actives off with her as well. So that really does hurt her value in this a ton. Sword Flash drops a ton as well. From Campaign 1, you'll notice she drops way down there because her damage just doesn't really keep up. You want AoE damage, not single target. Now, moving on over further, we have Star Expedition. So this one is very, very interesting because Vesa is by far the strongest damage dealer for the boss. We're mainly just talking about the boss damage. We don't really care about all the other fights. Those are just like PvP fights, which we have a column for PvP, but Star Expedition is very important for that boss damage because that's how your guild is ranked. Lord of Fear Aspen, a very close second. It's kind of an either or with Vesa or Lord of Fear Aspen because they're both part of 2 different number 1 damage compositions. They are equal, if not the same, like damage output wise. I've heard Lord of Fear Aspen's is a little less reliable, but can actually high roll a little bit higher as well. So yeah, those 2, number 1 and number 2. And then of course you definitely need Mystic Fairy Freya. And you need her last branch sublimed out because you want to be doing extra damage against poisoned targets. That is absolutely huge. Queen, similar situation because you have that all damage dealt. And then afterwards, you kind of fall off. The other heroes we're putting after these top 4 because these top 4 are pretty much part of the biggest damage combos. After this, they're more of solo heroes. So Sundevour Eos can do some decent damage. Sword Flash Shia can do good with an Osis setup. So can Vulcan, Asmodel. Azrael can be useful. The reason why he's ranked 7 is because, well, if you have his last passive sublimed and you're using the Osis strategy, he actually feeds 50 energy to your damage dealer. That's pretty significant. That's either skill damage or an active. So either way, that's really good. And then, yeah, typical bottom of the list. Star Swordsman Machman doesn't do great against the boss whatsoever. He thrives when there's 3 targets or more. Yeah, you don't want to be using him for Star Expedition, and you really don't want to be using any of these guys down at the bottom. Next up, we are going to be talking about Force War, specifically the Lair game mode. This is the one where you have the boss and the 4 minions around him. The name of the game is just bursting round 1. That's it. You got to burst round 1. If you don't, it makes it a lot more difficult. Doom Terminator Vulcan has the best capability of doing the most damage. Star Swordsman Machman right up there with him. It's like always neck and neck between these 2. But yeah, those are the ways you do damage. And then of course, Scarlet Queen Halora for that 20% all damage dealt. Afterwards, you can have some other heroes like Fairy Queen Vesa. She's awesome to put in because she has very high survivability, even without a house or anything like that. And Lord of Fear Aspen, his fear effect is really good. Starwing Jar still gets ranked pretty high here, mainly because, well, she just kind of does decently with CC if you survive, but a lot of these fights are going to be over in the first or second round anyway, so you're not going to have that much CC coming in. Eos and Azrael can be good. She has an on-death effect. He has an on-death effect. He can revive. Really cool things. Sword Flash in the earlier difficulties can be good, but as you get to the higher difficulties, she becomes worse and worse. Dodging can potentially be good if you have a strategy for your team to survive a long time. Most of these, you're going to want to have a battle over by 6 rounds anyway, because you're picking that perk that makes you get more points, but you die automatically. Not something you want. And then down the bottom, Asmodel just doesn't really clear it out. He does have some good burst, but compared to like all the other damage dealers, like pure damage dealers, he doesn't really stack up. And last but not least over here, we do have a PvP column, excuse me. Fairy Queen Vestige just is the most versatile. She has the silence effect when one of her allies dies. She has shielding, healing. She has an ability to not get crit that she can share with allies. Very strong. She's like the one hero that has stayed in the meta completely. And you'll notice a few heroes have fallen off. Doom Terminator Vulcan, Star Swordsman Mogman, absolutely insane burst damage dealers. They are the best two for bursting down enemies' teams right now. And then one thing I haven't had experience with, but a lot of people shared with me, is Phantom Defier Lena. Is nuts. Even without a core or anything like that, like her core really puts her over the top, but even without the core, her ability to dodge, give control immunity, healing, she gives so much to your team and takes so much away from the enemy team that she is absolutely bonkers. Again, Lord of Fear Aspen, he's got that fear effect. It's so strong. It's on the basic attack, and then he has a big nuke on his active skill. Very, very good. Lord of Death Azrael, you'll see in a lot of late game PvP teams because he has that revive effect, deals extra damage just from dying. Any hero that revives, Carry was really good. Lord of Death Azrael, very, very strong. Now, Starwing Jar has dropped down on this list recently because, well, you're going away from the CC meta and going more to a sustain slash burst damage back and forth. And when you're going more for the burst, Jara melts. Like, she just absolutely melts, even with like a crown. So she is dropping off. Scarlet Queen Halora doesn't do that much besides that all damage dealt, but it's feeling less and less needed nowadays. Mystic Fairy Freya, very similar to Elena, but like a lesser version, unless you have her like fully sublimed out. And even then, Elena seems to be performing better, which is why she gets bumped down the list. Asmodel can be good with his slow effect. He has a shield for an ally, giving damage reduction. Very good, but not as great. Eos, Sword Flash, they're all kind of falling out of the meta right now. They're still good, yes, but are they as good as they used to be? No. Sword Flash kind of needs that Drake synergy, and less people are actually using Drake on their PvP teams. Arania, yeah, she's just always down here. And the big one is Star Alchemist Holmes Young. You're going to see him like 14 on this tier list, but he's going to be number 1 the second you get a core on him. Just wait. I know a lot of you guys are like, Barry, you don't know what you're talking about, Star Alchemist Holmes Young. We're talking about without a core. You can see it right here. Without a core. No cores on any heroes, just sublimations and stuff. This way it's more geared towards like free-to-play players to help make a decision on what heroes to make. And hopefully this helps you guys decide what heroes in every game mode. Now, what we also did is we also ranked them overall. This is a very loose ranking. We also gave certain heroes a supporter boost, giving them like a 0.8 multiplier, lowering their overall rank. And this is what it actually looks like. Right now, we have Doom Terminator Vulcan as the overall value, one of the best heroes you can have on your account. I would say, though, I would pick between Doom Terminator Vulcan and Star Swordsman Mockman. I would not really go for both. It's a one or the other scenario. You really don't need both of them because they fill the same exact role. It's just that Doom Terminator Vulcan, he just has more uses overall. Lord of Fear Aspen, there's not a single game mode I do not use this hero in. He's amazing. His CC is crazy. I love it. And right there with him, Vesa. Again, these two heroes I use in like every single game mode. Swapping them out maybe for like a certain boss fight or something, but really, really good. Scarlet Queen Halora, I mean, this 5.3 is literally because she gives 20 to 24% all damage dealt. Like, just that. That's not even counting her corruption abilities, her Abyssal Corruption, and all those things. Just her raw all damage dealt. Oh my god, it's so strong. And the ping damage. Jara is just a goddess in so many different game modes. Her CC is insane. Sword Flash, this is a very good early Transcendence hero that falls off as time goes on. But you don't want to get rid of her, because she's still a tenant for Star Swordsman Mockman, and a very good one at that, so just keep that in mind. And then as you guys see, we come down to Freya, Elena. They're very close. I feel like once we do more testing with Phantom Defier Elena, she's probably going to bump further up this list. Sun Devour Eos, while she has some uses, isn't that amazing. Asmodel Dauntless, very good hero, but again, there's people that do a better job than him. mainly Mockman and Vulcan. They just do a better job than Asmodel, which is why he's down here so low. And then you got kind of like the bottom of the barrel heroes. So let me know what you guys think. We're going to have, again, like I said, we're going to have a version with cores, like endgame tier list. This one's more like the late game tier list. We're going to do an endgame version. If you want me to tweak anything as well, definitely leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you'd switch anybody around, because again, I love having these discussions, talking about who you would change, where you would put them, all that stuff. But hopefully you guys can kind of go through, you can pause the video in the section you want to talk about the most and see, well, I really want to focus on PvP. So I want to focus on these heroes, or I need to get through campaign 3XX. These are the heroes you want to pick. Again, remember, anytime you see Vulcan and Mockman, it's an either or scenario. Don't build both like me. It is complete overkill, and hopefully this helps you guys out. So let me know, and I'll see you guys next time.